Hey crazy friends.
Hey friends.
It's Jay and Francis with Find Your Crazy. We're a family of 9 who travel full-time in our RV with 8 of our kids as we circle the country.
6 of our kids.
Yeah, really? Sorry.
Hey, we're a full family.
9 with 8 of our kids. My math doesn't work. My math's just not good. My memory's good. My math's just not. 6 of our kids.
Wow. How many times have you said that? A lot.
Too many.
Okay.
Hey crazy friends.
Hey friends.
It's Jay and Francis with Find Your Crazy. We're a family of 9 who travel full-time in our RV with 6 of our kids as we travel the country to see every national park. And this week, we're going to drop a bomb on you. Boys and girls, they're different.
Yes.
And when you travel with both of them, you have to do some stuff that appeases everybody.
That's right.
And so this week on our travel vlog, we're heading further west along our journey, and we're going to do something for the girls,
and
we're going to do something for the boys. So stay tuned and check it out. So we're inside again. RV life is just a little unpredictable. We normally love to have our videos out on Friday, and we normally love to have them shot outside in some beautiful location because we are in some really beautiful locations. But it just doesn't always work like that. The last 3 days have been like hurricane force winds where we're at.
Yes.
And so you may even hear it in the background of the camper. Like, it's crazy.
And no connectivity at all. We haven't even been close to that. So it's been really hard. Best laid plans don't always work out.
So when life happens, you just happen around it. And so here we are inside.
It's just like we're having coffee together. Just sitting around telling you maybe all the boring things of all the places we've been. But we hope you find it exciting today because this is one of my all-time favorite places that we've been.
Yeah, so when we left you in the last travel vlog, we were in Tulsa, and we were headed towards the Rocky Mountains. And that's a long way, as we talked about. Between the national parks, our last one was Hot Springs, and headed all the way to Rocky Mountain. That's a long way. And so we were looking for things to do along the way. And so we reached out to our RV community and started looking for things that we could do that were either right on our path or just a little bit off of our path. And we found one that was pretty important to somebody in our family.
It was me. So I actually was watching, we talk about this community, but I was actually watching another YouTuber, the full-time family that travels, and they were in Kansas, Independence, Kansas, and they were seeing the little house on the Prairie Museum and the homestead of the Ingalls family. And when I saw that, I ran in here and I was like, Jay, we are so close. Like, I've already Googled it. I've already looked on Waze. I've already figured out we're not that far. Can we please go up and go to the Ingalls homestead? Because I know many of you, like myself, are Little House on the Prairie fans, and Laura Ingalls was such an inspiration in so many ways. I love to write, and so does she.
She's not a fan. She's a fanatic. Let me just tell you that we own like all 400 episodes on
all
iTunes.
of them. All
like,
of them.
We have to watch the Christmas special like 4 times a year.
Yes, and I cry every single time when Laura has to give away Bunny. Like, I cry so bad, but it's so sweet. But he really did. He bought me for Mother's Day one time. He bought me all of every single episode of Little House on the Prairie. I love Little House on the Prairie. I love what it stands for. I love the simplicity of it. I also just love the homesteading and the farm atmosphere. It is everything that I love, right up my alley. And I think some of you are the same way as well. So in the comments, let me know if you're a Little House on the Prairie fan like me. And if
you can't be a Little House on the Prairie fan like her. But if you're a Little House on the Prairie fan also, put that in the comments.
Yes, and so I ran into this room and I said, Jay, please, can we do this? And so we began to look at it, and we saw that really it was not going to be that far out of the way. It was just a couple of hours actually, and it was also going to lead us to the second location, that was going to be super fun for the boys that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. So it really looked like it was going to work out, and it did. And I was so thrilled about this because this has just been a dream I didn't even know I had. And so I'm so thankful for community that lets us know about not to miss places. And that's one of the reasons reasons why we do these videos is so we can help our friends know the places you've got to see. And Little House on the Prairie Museum is a must-do bucket list item if you're a Little House on the Prairie or Laura Ingalls fan.
So if you're not really familiar with Little House on the Prairie, maybe all you know is about the TV series. So the TV series is actually loosely based on the works of Laura Ingalls Wilder. And so she was a young girl who actually was a part of the family that lived on this pioneering settler homestead lifestyle, traveling literally all over the West. When you look at her real story, the amount of miles they covered would be a lot for me in an RV, and they did it in a horse and buggy all the time. And so when she was older, actually it wasn't until she was about 60 that her daughter started writing, and then encouraged her to start writing down. Some of these she was already writing, like some magazine columns, but so she started putting down basically her life experiences. Now, they're fictionalized just a little bit, but they're really based on a lot of truth out of her life. And she ended up writing like 5 books of these different areas that they were in throughout her life. They were focused on children. And eventually, a TV network decided, hey, this would make a really good TV show. And so they made a pilot, and so if you've ever watched Little House on the Prairie, you have to go back and watch the pilot episode where they're actually in Independence, Kansas. And that is based really, really tightly on the very first of her books and on the real events that happened in her life. And it happened at the location where this museum is that we went to in Independence, Kansas.
You have to go!
So then, once the pilot solidified and they realized it was going to be good, then obviously they moved them to Walnut Grove, which is a place that they went to, but really then the TV series takes off completely from the book, and takes on its own life, so it's not really anything like her life anymore. But really neat that we were able to go to this place that wasn't really based on the TV series, but really based on her real life. And they've kind of tracked it down through local records of where it was at. And there's nothing there that was original except for the well that they dug, but they've replicated several of the things, the cabin, just like it would have been during that frontier time. There's lots of different
one-room schoolhouse.
Yeah, and then they kind of add on some things like a mail U.S. Postal Service place and a bank, and then the one-room schoolhouse and the church all together. And so you get a lot of the flavor of their life there, but also a little bit of the touches of what's to come once they got to Walnut Grove.
And there is a little museum, and when you think museum, it's not going to be extensive. There is mainly just a lot of the books that you can get, and some of them are ones you can't really get other places. Many of them are stamped. I have one that are stamped with the Little House on the Prairie Museum. That's like a big deal to me. It's like stamped, but anyway. And so there's also some really cute toys and items that the kids love to see, more period things, that maybe the bonnets and the little, I don't know, like the little dolls that they would have had, the corn husk dolls and things like that. And so it was really, really cute. There are some different maybe areas that you can see some things from Little House on the Prairie and from Laura Ingalls Wilder and some of the things of her life, but it isn't a museum as you would think of such. It's mainly a little bit of a gift shop, a little bit of artifacts.
It's about a 2-hour experience for most people. We spent about 3.5 just because
there's farm animals there and the kids love that, and I thought that only our girls would enjoy this, and then we would head to where the boys would really want to go, but our children loved it. Every single one of them loved it. We also started listening to some of the books on our way, on our drive. We listened to those, so you can also, if you're on the way there, download some of those books, listen to those stories, and so when your kids get there, my kids remembered, because Little House on the Prairie, that book, is actually chock full of really great options. So our kids were ready for it when we got there, and they loved it. They loved it.
Great way to really make it come alive to them. So check it out.
What's ailing you today? You need some leeches? Leeches, and what else do you need? Poison? All right, some arsenic? Got a bellyache? All right, leeches are coming up. All right, so you can see that if you love Little House on the Prairie, you have got to go to this museum and this homestead. It is so wonderful. It will not take you a long time, but if you love the show and you love the books, you will love this place, and so will your family. And there are a lot of other homesteads because they did move around a lot. And so there's a lot of other great places. There's actually a little tour map that you can go and see the different places they live, but don't miss Independence, Kansas, because that's really where the TV series began and really where the Little House on the Prairie book was based out of. And so if you're wondering what book kind of coincides with that, because she wrote a lot of them, and so it can be confusing kind of which one. This is the one, Little House on the Prairie, is the one that's about the Independence, Kansas Little House on the Prairie start. And so you'll want to read that book to your kids. But if mamas, you want a book for yourself, there's a brand new book that has come out, and it's called Caroline. And this was for me because the little museum is a little less museum and a little bit more bookstore and little items for the kids and things like that. And so in there, I met a great lady, and she really kind of helped me see what book did I really want to take home. And one of the ones I wanted was Caroline. It's new. It's USA Today's bestseller, and it is Life Through the Eyes of Ma Ingalls, Caroline herself, who I've always loved from the show. But it talks a little bit about what it would have been like for a pioneer woman to make such a trek during that time. It is not biographical. It is not autobiographical of Caroline, but it is taken from several accounts of pioneer women and the things they would have experienced as they traveled, what it would have been like to live kind of nomadic and travel from homestead to homestead, and also, more importantly, what was it like for a mom. It's a very sweet story about what it was like for Caroline as a mother, taking her children from a place that she loves, surrounded by family, to a brand new unknown place. And so if you are looking for a book to read that is certified by the Little House on the Prairie Museum, they had stamped this and said that it was approved by them, but this is the book Caroline, so you're going to want to order that on Amazon and maybe read that if you're a fan. And so that was our wonderful opportunity for my bucket list to check that off, but then we had another place to go.
So once we finished with kind of the frontier Western life for the girls, we moved to the gunfighting Western life for the boys. Right. So we went from Independence to Dodge City. And if you know anything about the Old West and
yes. Or ever watch Gunsmoke,
then you know about Dodge City.
Yes.
It is kind of quintessential to everything that is iconic about Old West cowboy
yes.
culture. The cattle drives, the sheriffs, the saloons, the shootouts on the street. It all happened right there in Dodge City. And so, of course, we wanted to take the boys there and experience that, especially because they have such an amazing place there in the Boot Hill Museum.
You've got to go.
The Boot Hill Museum, honestly, we went there because they do live gunfight reenactments. And so we knew that we wanted to go there for the boys to see that.
Yes.
But when we got there,
we never expected
I never expected it to be
so
as
well
impressive
done.
or
So
as
well
done as it is. They have basically rebuilt a whole stretch of Old West towns with all of the fronts of the saloons and the doctor's offices and the barber shops all the way down.
Yeah.
And then inside of all of those, there is just museum after museum. So there's one that's all about the cattle culture, and one that's a section that's all about the guns, and a section that's all about the sheriffs, and a section that's all about the saloons, and then one about all the games, and then there's a whole area about the Native Americans. There's a whole house, there's a church. Every aspect of the culture of that life is represented there in great detail, and there's some interactive areas even
very
for the kids.
Hands-on.
We were just really impressed even before the gunfight reenactments
Right.
happened. And then when those happened, of course, that was just over the top for our boys. Actually, we went back twice in one day so they could see two of them.
Yes, because in the afternoon there is a really quick gunfight, and it's really great, but it's very quick. And in the evening they do more of a live show,
Like
and
a
because
vaudeville
it
show,
was
can-can
COVID,
dancers,
they
and
usually
then-
do it in the big saloon, and it's got kind of like a piano player, it's got all the things, but they moved it outside on this lovely lawn that they have, and we were all able to sit outside and enjoy this. But they sang, and they brought the can-can dancers out, and they had the gunfight.
And then they shot it out at the end.
Yeah, it was really, and it was much bigger, but it was fun, it was funny, it was interactive. They interacted with the audience. It's just like a fun dinner show, just without the dinner, but it was really, really fun.
Yeah, it was super, super neat. And then being able to just see all of the culture that happened there, all of the things, the famous people like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and Bat Masterson.
Yeah.
Those people that are just iconic to Old West, finding out the good and the bad side of them, the truth behind the legend that we hear so much about.
Seeing all their weapons, there's a
There's
whole area.
room full
Our kids love
guns
that.
that's different guns from the Old West. So these are the ones if you were a sheriff, and these are the ones if you hunt buffalo, and
That's
these are
right.
the ones if you're a cowboy. I mean, like
Anything
was just,
you can think of, from a real life jail cell where you can go in.
whole
and-
section of for the Native American culture that was
It was
there.
beautiful.
A
Beautiful,
whole section
huge
about the
bison.
buffalo. I mean, it was
amazing.
It was really, really, really
We were surprised.
impressive. And then if you're a family, they have a family rate, and so the price really was not bad. We were very, very, very. It was very, very economical for our big family to go,
Yes.
and so it's just super neat to get to hear a lot about that culture. What's unique about Dodge City is like it's got this kind of Western face, but it had like a really dark side too. I mean, there were like some of the things that you wouldn't want to read to your kids about all the things that happened there. Even from its start, is so interesting. It started as a fort there in Kansas that was built by civilians. It got overrun by Indians, and it was shut down for a couple of years. And then the Army came back to try to take the area. They rebuilt the fort, and when they rebuilt the fort, kind of alcohol started to be a problem among the soldiers. And so the main general of the fort said, "That's it." He said, "There will not be another drop of alcohol within 50 miles of this fort." So an industrious man bought a wagon full of whiskey. He tied a scarf to the wheel of his wagon so that he could measure out exactly 50 miles from the gates of the fort. And he stopped, unhooked his horses, and started selling whiskey. And it grew so much that he built a little cabin, and then he built a saloon, and then it built up a little town. And it was kind of just another sleepy little town there in Kansas until obviously the cowboy culture, the cattle culture started moving up. But what made the difference was they were bringing all these cattle up from Texas. But unfortunately, when they brought them, they also brought the little ticks that were on them that carried some kind of disease that was unique to the cattle in Texas that didn't really bother them, but was killing off the ones in Kansas. And so the Kansas farmers petitioned the legislature, and they drew a line basically across the state and said Texas cattle can't come any further than this. It's a quarantine line. Well, all of these other cow towns were on the wrong side of the line, and Dodge City immediately became the queen of the cow towns, is what they called it. And then within 10 years, it exploded to this huge town. All of these gunfights in the street, all of these saloons, all of these things that we know about, Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, all of that happened right there in that little period of time. And then 10 years later, they moved the line again, and Dodge City was done. It was back to being just a sleepy little town. But in that 10-year period, all of this
history,
history is condensed there into that. And they do a really good job now of representing that. Statues throughout the city, but especially, I mean, the Boot Hill Museum, I mean, you just can't say, I just can't say enough about how impressed we were with that.
We spent all day there. We did not anticipate that. It's a museum. We have kids. We thought, oh, it won't be that much. But we had no idea how interactive it would be and how immersive, because it really starts on one side. And so the outside is a facade of all the different places. But on the inside, you really go from place to place to place through just doors, through this entire kind of string of stores. And it just really drives you through the history of it, from the television history of Gunsmoke all the way to the real life heroes and villains and things like that. And so you never even go outside, but it is in such a way that you feel like you're just really walking through a small, sleepy little town and immersed in that culture. And so we really highly recommend that you go, and I think you probably need to see it
you need
for
to check
yourself.
it out. see, we had an amazing time there at the Boot Hill Museum. It was far beyond our expectations. And we are loving everything about this traveling lifestyle. And it's not even just those big things, it's even the small things. Like, we have this kind of these huge pillars in our travel that are these national parks that we're seeing. But then even under that, we're so enjoying even these smaller stops like the Boot Hill Museum or the Laura Ingalls Wild Homestead Museum. But the truth is, it's not even just those. Even under those, just the day-to-day travel is really amazing.
Yeah.
Every campground we stop at is different.
Yeah.
There's something different to see. There's something different to do. And even when we don't leave the campground, there's just these fun experiences that we're having with the kids. They're seeing things that I haven't seen before. And then state after state, getting to see, just driving through the differences in the states. I mean, I'll tell you, we were surprised by Kansas.
Kansas was really, so far, I have loved going through Kansas, and just, we drive separately, and so it gives me an opportunity to just be disconnected from anything else I would be doing as a passenger, and just looking around and seeing all the beauty as it changes. As we're heading west, each state is beautiful and magical. It has so much to offer if we just stop, take our time, stop on these small roadside places, and then explore what this incredible country has to offer us. And I love that we get to dig in deeper to the things that we love. And I've always loved Little House on the Prairie, and getting to have that opportunity to really see more, to experience more, and to learn more has been an incredible opportunity that we want to take advantage of. And so it's not always for the kids. Sometimes it's for the moms and the dads who love the gunfight just as much as they did and learned as much. And so just stop along the way, whether it's just a day trip or whether it's a weekend trip or whether you get a chance to full-time RV. We would encourage you just to enjoy every single day along the way and just take time to explore where you are and to enjoy it.
So we're going to leave you with a little montage of some of those smaller moments along this leg of the journey. And then after that, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do that. And until next time, go out and have some crazy fun with your crazy family.
Bye, you guys. You've almost got him, Joe.